In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the harmonic balancer, also known as the crank pulley, on this Dodge Grand Caravan. Let's get started. With a 19mm socket, remove all 5 of your lug nuts and then pull the wheel off. Now we have to pull this splash shield off so you can get better access in there. I'm going to start with a trim tool. There are some push clips along the outer edges, one being in the front here. Just pop these off. Keep in mind, a lot of times they will break, so if you have replacements, that's a good idea to replace them. And then one right over here securing the fender liner to this shield. Okay, I was able to save that one. Then there are 2 10mm bolts, one over here and one in there. Pull this off. Now with everything exposed, you can see the tensioner is right here. We're going to have to put a 3/8 drive tool right in the head of it to remove tension off the belt. For this, you can just use a ratchet. Pull counterclockwise, slip that belt off. Oftentimes the belt just wants to fall immediately, so I'm just going to take it off, get it out of my way so I can work easier. Now take a 27mm socket and let's remove the crank bolt. Keep in mind for this, it's going to be very difficult to do if you don't have an impact, because you're going to have to hold the engine, prevent it from spinning. Also, it will spin backwards if you try to do this by hand, so it's even worse. Now there are other ways of doing this manually without power tools, but they are a little more cumbersome. I'm going to go for the air impact. Okay. There we go, oil comes out. Now you should be able to just grab this pulley and slide it right off. It is not a pressed fit. It's keyed right here. There it is. It is now a great time to replace your front main seal, which is this oil seal right here. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to leave mine in. But once again, this is when you would want to replace it ideally. Clean all of this off with a clean rag. Right now the engine is wide open in here, so you don't want to introduce any sand and debris that's around it. Now take your new harmonic balancer, line it up with that keyway. Should slide right on once you get it lined up. Press it on all the way. Before I put the bolt in, I'm going to use compressed air, blow out the hole inside the crankshaft. If you put the bolt in and there is oil in there, you can either destroy the threads or break the crankshaft, because oil cannot be compressed and this is a dead end hole. So if you try to thread it in and compress oil, well, it's basically just gonna end up very poorly. So I'm gonna blow all this out. The rag makes it so that I can absorb all that oil that's blowing out. Now take your bolt. Ideally, you would want to replace this bolt. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to reuse it. The torque that I will give you in a second is actually for a new bolt. Having said that, I'm going to just tighten it up with my air impact. You want it to go on nice and smooth like this all the way. That's pretty much bottomed out by hand, so that's perfect. If you have oil back there, you will actually hear it hiss as you tighten it. So make sure you tighten it by hand so that you can catch that if it's the case for you. It'll basically sound like there's fluid wanting to escape from there. Now the torque, again, for a brand new bolt is 30 foot-pounds plus 105 degrees. So that's just over a quarter of a turn. That's pretty tight. Having said that, I'm going to use my air impact and tighten it up, make it nice and snug. If you torque it with a torque wrench, you're going to have either a helper or create some sort of device that will hold the engine in place for you. Otherwise, the engine will just turn over. You don't want to over tighten it because it will strip out the crank, and well, you don't want to end up in that situation. Also keep in mind the threads do have a little bit of oil on them, so that actually can help you because it will be easier to tighten it down to the proper spec as it removes some of that friction from the threads. Now let's get the belt back on. Here's a diagram on the screen of the belt routing. Doesn't matter where you start as long as you get the belt on all the pulleys, of course. Okay, it's pretty much seated everywhere except for the water pump, and of course to do that we have to remove tension. So let's get our tool on the tensioner, 3/8 drive ratchet here. Release tension, slip the belt over, Apply tension. Before we're done here, you always want to double check that the belt is sitting in all the grooves that it needs to. That's good. Everything's perfect. So I'm going to take this out of here. If you don't check it and it is off, it can actually either, well, damage the belt, but also it can fly off as soon as the engine starts and damage other components that are in the way. Let's get this shield up now. Line it up with the bolt holes. I like to put anti-seize on bolts like this so that they don't seize in the holes there. My front bolt is broken, so unfortunately I can't secure it there, but I can still secure it here and here with push clips. Tighten this one up. There we go. Let's get the wheel back on. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts, snug them up, and then in a cross pattern, torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Double check them if you want.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.